Hey everybody, my name is Patrick and I own MacDonald Timing, and today we're going to talk over the huge news, which is FloSports acquiring Direct Athletics. So yeah, the news has just dropped. FloSports, which owns FloTrack and MileSplit, is now also going to own Direct Athletics, TFRRS, and MeetPro, which is pretty ginormous. In fact, this is probably the biggest news that I can remember really in like the last 10 years in the timing community. I think there's going to be some big implications for some positive change, hopefully only positive change. And I want to talk through some of the potential routes and things that might actually happen because of this. So I have asked the question, and first of all, Direct Athletics is going to essentially remain, for at least the time being, a kind of separate entity. Same with TFRRS and MeetPro. But there are going to be new opportunities for MeetPro and MileSplit, particularly MileSplit Live probably, to integrate with one another, which will be helpful for any users of either of them probably. It's certainly an interesting, kind of venture. The acquisition of such a company, which is basically a database company, by another company that is a database company, leads to some kind of interesting potentialities, which is, which one of the products may end up kind of leading the way for the combined group going forward. Frankly, I think that Direct Athletics is basically a database company. I've had very few issues with their data over the years. They are used to creating data, holding data, and then serving it back to the end user. And in my opinion, they've done really, really well with that. That's why I think probably, if anything, we're going to see kind of MileSplit move a little bit more towards what Direct Athletics has done in that regard. But MileSplit needs an additional component to really compete with, frankly, what now is a growing universe of athletic.net stuff. RunMeet is along and is doing pretty well. A lot of users really, really love RunMeet. That said, I do know that, frankly, that the kind of choice of particular timing meet management software you run is a really tribal thing. So people that love one or hate the other are going to be pretty firm in those camps. So RunMeet is coming along. MileSplit doesn't have anything to compete with that on the front end. Now they have a back end product which is actually okay. MileSplit Live. It's not something that I personally use, but it's all right and it does a decent job. And then there's some other components that both of them have that are roughly about the same as far as usefulness and whatever. But MileSplit does not have something on the front end to create that data, which is a meet management program. And now they do. They are purchasing MeetPro, and if you've been following along with MeetPro, there has been some tweaks and improvements recently, and I think that it stands to reason that there's going to be even more in the near future. Frankly, I was concerned about the lack of development. There have been a few things over the last year and a half where I'm like, this would be kind of nice to, that goes and starts there to kind of like, this is kind of necessary. Like, we need to be moving in this direction in order for the software to actually kind of keep up with some of the other changes that are coming out with other software programs. MeetPro has been, for me and for my group, really, really reliable. So when I first heard about this change, I was worried about this from my business perspective, because integration with a new software program is really hard to do when you are doing it at some sort of scale. Now, granted, we are not the largest time company in America or anything along those lines, but let's be honest. If you were timing 3 or 4 events a year because you're working for your local high school or your kids' team or whatever, it's a very different idea trying to change over software from one program to another than if you are like us and doing over 100 events a year. So just trying to keep in mind, like, the scale of a major change like that is a big problem if you are scaled up like we are. So I was concerned about that. I don't believe that my fears are reasonable, ultimately. I think that this overall change is going to be really positive for MeetPro. I think it's also going to present some great options for MileSplit. One thing that I particularly like is some sort of native import from MeetPro to MileSplit. I would really highly suggest looking at a semicolon delimited parser, because MeetPro puts out a CSV file or a semicolon delimited file very easily. That information is kind of encapsulated, and that should be able to be inputted by a program or something like MileSplit with a lot more ease right now than what their text import is, and that's what they're using for high-tech related stuff. So MileSplit adding some sort of feature where they can accept a semicolon delimited file and being able to accept that results that way would be really helpful. A lot of other programs are already accepting that sort of thing, so a lot of other different registration sites and result sites are able to parse those, and that would be a huge step forward, making life a lot easier for anybody that's using MileSplit and MeetPro combined. On the MeetPro side, I think that there's going to be some really big improvements as far as the live results go. Now, I still personally use the MeetPro live results. I like them quite a bit. But some sort of integration with MileSplit, if MileSplit and MeetPro Live combined together to make a little bit more of a seamless kind of experience for the user, like myself, who's actually not the person that's looking at the results, but the person that's creating the results, that could be really positive. Right now, MileSplit is able to do live field results, and MeetPro is not, and that's something that I frankly was going to push the MeetPro people to kind of work on in the next year or so, to be able to bring in live field event results and create results from files that are growing and changing as they get deeper and deeper into an event. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm excited about. I have been using Direct Athletics now for 20 plus years, MileSplit for nearly as long as well. I used DA for the last 10 years as a timer and using their products like MeetPro, but before that I was also using Direct Athletics for registration and everything, as I was a college coach at the time. There is some irony to the fact that both of these programs or companies essentially were started very similarly by people that were just out of college. They were startups. They had an idea and they took them and ran with them, and they went in very different directions initially, but over time they have kind of converged back on one another. At least some of their products have, and so I'm really hopeful for both groups to be able to come together, work together, and work in the same direction, using the knowledge that they all have individually, and kind of be able to bring that together. It's all well and good to be able to kind of work in a silo. Sometimes it's really helpful to put your head down and just say, well, I'm just going to do this. But right now, I think as far as a business case goes, I think it really makes sense for these two to combine and move forward and create better products together. So, personally, I'm really hopeful. Certainly, I've been wrong once before, back in 1983, but there have been a lot of good signs so far from my perspective to think that this is going to be a positive group, and overall together things are going to move forward in a really great way. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy. If you have any thoughts about this acquisition / merger or whatever purchase, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below.